Thank you, Steffi. Yes. Hello, everyone. I have the pleasure of introducing to you Marcus Gabriel, one of the most interesting and leading philosophers of our interesting times. Marcus is one of the founders of a radically new school of philosophical thought, the New Realism. He is the author of over almost 30 books, some of which became international bestsellers. His most famous books are Why the World Does Not Exist and Moral Progress in Dark Times. In his new book, The Meaning of Thought, he lays the foundation for a general philosophy of intelligence, including artificial intelligence, of course. In this book, he argues that thinking is a form of sense perception that is capable of grasping facts, including facts about itself. For him, self-thinking thinking is the highest form of thought, which is the ground of the current intelligence technology summer. Currently, he is working on a book titled The New Ethics of AI, which is a cornerstone of his project of a new enlightenment. According to his approach, a new enlightenment recouples techno-scientific and ethical progress for the larger good of a really progressive society. This requires precisely the kind of cutting-edge transsexual exchange so successfully implemented by DLD. In 2009, Marcus Gabriel became Germany's youngest full professor in philosophy. Since then, he was fellow and visiting professor around the globe at Berkeley, Stanford, New York University, the Sorbonne, Rio de Janeiro, Tokyo. Since 2021, he is academic director of the New Institute, a mission-driven institute of advanced studies in Hamburg. Marcus, we are looking forward to hearing your most recent thoughts on the ethics of AI. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, René, for this introduction. My subject today is, as you can see, the new ethics of AI. In the remaining 17 minutes of this session, I will first briefly introduce some of the main concepts of a general philosophy of artificial intelligence. These set the rules of the game that we will be playing together. In so doing, I will do what philosophers do. I will define ethics, A and I, the cornerstones of my talk. I will leave the definitions of the and of to you or to ChatGPT, curious to hear what those words mean. Once we then know what ethics, A and I mean, we can finally bring them together. This leads to what I will call the new, which means a synthesis, a putting together of elements hitherto isolated in thought and action. I will then present three main theses. First thesis, I will repeat them so you don't have to write them down, which you won't anyhow. The rise of generative artificial intelligence has triggered a new wave of ethics of AI. It depends on us if it becomes a threatening AI tsunami or a cool wave to ride on. Yeah, you gotta choose between Japan and California here. Second thesis, AI systems relate to human intelligence like a map to a territory. They are thought models. Yet, as we will see, unfortunately, this doesn't mean that they are, as it were, stupid and thus innocuous after all. The real danger lies elsewhere, as we will see. Third thesis, AI systems effect potentially radical social change. The aim of a new ethics of AI is to design AI systems whose goal is to effect positive social change, which ought to be measured in light of moral progress. Okay? Let's go, let's think. First, introduction, the rules of the game. Let's define ethics. ethics is a sub-discipline of philosophy. I won't define philosophy, so there's something I won't define. I also won't define definitions, so please accept that sloppy method. Its target system of ethics, what ethics is about, are moral facts. Meta-ethics asks how and if moral facts exist. The epistemology of ethics deals with the question of how we can know them. In general, a fact is a true answer to a meaningfully posed question. Here are some examples of facts. Question: of which country is Munich a city right now? Answer: Germany. Hence, that Munich is in Germany is a geopolitical fact of the boring sort. Next question: what is e to the power of I times pi equal to? Answer: -1. That e to the power of I times pi plus 1 equals 0 is thus a very important, by the way, mathematical fact. Finally, question: ought one to shoot Iskander rockets at childcare facilities in Ukraine? Answer: no, that shit's evil. That one ought not to shoot Iskander rockets at childcare facilities in Ukraine is a moral fact. This and infinitely many other simple examples of this form demonstrates that there are, among other things, moral facts. Good luck denying that. A moral fact is a fact concerning what we ought to do or not to do, simply in virtue of our shared humanity. It would lead too far and become boring at some point to define this definition in detail, so let's use this as an axiom. There are moral facts. There's something that you ought to do absolutely as a human being, including, for instance, that I absolutely ought not to engage in dancing on the stage right now. It would be awful. Next, let's define intelligence. In general, intelligence is the capacity, paradigmatically of an animal, to solve a given problem in a finite amount of time. A system S1 is more intelligent than a system S2 if it solves the same problem faster. Intelligence can be measured. DeepMind's AlphaZero is more intelligent at chess than most humans. Most native speakers of Chinese are faster at solving the problem of how to read a Chinese newspaper than me. They are more intelligent at dealing with Chinese. ChatGPT to be discussed. Next, let's define artificial. Then we finally know what artificial intelligence is, which is usually not answered. People talk a lot about it, but hardly ever say what it is, so I'm trying to do that. An intelligence is artificial if it is not biological. More specifically, an intelligence is artificial if it is the product of human industry, excluding the human activity of human sexual reproduction. Sorry to break the news, AI is not sexy. Pure AI research provides the scientific, mathematical, and engineering basis for AI industry. The products of AI industry are AI systems. If AI systems were implemented in biological wetware, such as actual cerebral organoids, that is, neural structures grown in a lab, which can be done and is done already, this would change the rules of the game. But currently, this is not the case. My smartphone, your smartphone, and no server so far has actual neurons in them. So for the time being, AI is artificial. This will change drastically if we ran our programs on neurons. That will be very different. We can now put flesh on these conceptual bones, ethics A and I, with my main three theses. Thesis 1. The rise of generative AI has triggered a new wave of ethics of AI. It depends on us if it becomes a threatening AI tsunami or a cool wave to ride on, Japan or California. If we combine the definitions into a synthesis, we get the field of ethics of AI. Ethics of AI deals with moral facts pertaining to the production and use of AI systems. Which AI systems ought we to produce, and how ought we to produce them? Is there an ethical permissibility line in AI research and industry, as Nigerian philosopher Amara Esther Chimakonem recently put it? What types of AI systems ought to be implemented in socioeconomic and politically sensitive contexts? A hotly debated question these days. We can distinguish now three waves of ethics of AI so far: 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. More excitingly, I myself sometimes call them Fight Terminator, that's 1.0, Fight Trump, that's 2.0, and don't fight, be progressive. That's the one I'm gonna recommend. So let me briefly walk you through them. The first wave of ethics of AI, Fight Terminator, was mostly science fictional, which doesn't mean that it was wrong-headed. It dealt mainly with the question of how dangerous emerging AI will be. Is it an existential threat to humanity? Will the robots take over and kill us? Will AI start a nuclear war in order to transition into a post-humanist future of our planet? Will it merge with our bodies somehow, like a body snatcher from those old movies? Are we maybe already living in the Matrix, in a simulation run by AI, in order for it not to be bored? While full of fun, excitement, theological and philosophical food for thought, the Terminator phase is not quite realistic. There are two main reasons why we're not entering a Terminator stage. A, Arnold Schwarzenegger is too old now to turn into an efficient Terminator. And B, there are not enough rare earth and energy resources to build Skynet in the first place. So don't worry about Terminator, it's too expensive and Arnie's too old. Second wave, more interesting, Fight Trump, was characterized, and maybe will be characterized again, by the justified observation that AI systems are negatively biased and socially disruptive. They can easily be used for purposes of subliminal manipulation, exploitation, and behavioral change. Hence, they should somehow be regulated according to Fight Trump, so that we do not wind up in the dystopian world of authoritarian and surveillance capitalism. Many of the second wave questions are, of course, still highly relevant. Yet, its answers are mostly political in the sense of asking for regulatory frameworks, AI acts and such, whose goal is to somehow prohibit certain technological innovations out of the justified fear of their misuse or grounding in improper biased data sets. That's currently the political approach within the European Union, regulate the problems away. That's second wave of AI. It's in the spirit of Fight Trump, okay? So you think there's a political opponent, AI somehow, and the companies behind it, and you gotta regulate them away somehow, okay? That's Fight Trump. Second wave ethics of AI is therefore largely prohibitory, not productive and progressive. It just tries to fight Trump, and that's a boring game. I'm not looking forward to fighting it again, but anyhow. So here enters my candidate. Don't fight, be progressive. This is the maxim of the new ethics of AI. The new ethics of AI is integrated into the design and implementation process of AI research and AI systems alike. Its goal is to produce AI systems that actively foster moral progress. It uses AI technology to learn something about the way in which we, humans, achieve ethical insight beyond our narrow provincial codes of morality. It thinks of AI as systems of universalizing, as New Enlightenment Japanese philosopher Takahiro Nakajima put it. Approaching this from another well-known angle, in this audience maybe, in their recent book, Noise, A Flaw in Human Judgment, Danny Kahneman, Olivier Sibony, and Cass Sunstein show how AI systems can make some of our judgments noise-free, improve the coherence of our own thinking and acting. Roughly, this means that their capacity for pattern recognition in our thinking and action leads to insight into how we actually and truly reason in real-world context, and thus helps us to transcend our always distorted self-image. AI systems can therefore, if this is correct, become true partners in the trial and error process of human progress. They are not potentially dangerous others, AIs in the sense of alien intelligences, but almost literally like-minded fellows. Such a positive Enlightenment attitude towards techno-scientific progress is, of course, utopian and slightly science fiction, but so is every ethics of AI, as we have seen. In short, I conclude that third wave ethics of AI, the new or progressive phase, provides us with a normative vision of the good. It requires large-scale global cooperation across different value cultures so that we can co-create a new form of universal belonging based on AI-driven insight into who we are as humans. This shall be the true meaning of human-centered AI. Second thesis. AI systems relate to human intelligence like a map to a territory. They are thought models. Yet, this does not make them, unfortunately, stupid and innocuous. On the contrary, insofar as AI systems are an industrially produced form of higher order problem solving with reflexive feedback mechanisms called learning, implementing them in real socioeconomic context disrupts our modes of production. Hence, the need for normative orientation based on a realistic conception of what AI truly is. The argument for this thesis draws on the classical conception of artificial intelligence, going back to no less a figure than Alan Turing, which is part of today's AI handbook knowledge. So you'll find this in any AI handbook. According to this conception, the field of AI research deals with artificially produced systems whose functions exhibit behavior that so closely resembles the kinds of things that humans and other animals do and think that it ideally becomes virtually indistinguishable from those activities. AI then is a simulation of human thought and action. In this sense, AlphaZero plays chess and Go, ChatGPT answers questions and writes texts, and other Gen AI systems produce impressive content, mostly in visual and auditory formats. AI-driven robots and autonomous weapons are other examples. They do what we do, only more efficiently. This raises the question of how model AI system and its target system relate to each other. The classical idea is a version of map and territory, which entails that AIs and natural intelligences remain forever categorically distinct. But there's also the option of a closer proximity. For if the territory is human thinking, it might well be the case that the model and the target system belong to the same reality, that of thinking. And this is how we experience our intelligence machines, as if they were doing the same thing that we do, thinking, playing chess, answering questions, writing content, etc., etc. If you subscribe to this idea, then you do think that there's another actor in the space of thinking, namely those AI systems. For this reason, we need to answer the central philosophical question, what is thinking? For if thinking is a biological process, AIs cannot think at all. This is the original version of the map and territory idea. While trees grow in the Black Forest, they do not grow in Google Maps. So while AI does something that looks like thinking, it doesn't think. That's the original idea. However, if thinking is something more abstract, a process in reality, not essentially tied to brains and their parts, AI systems could in principle become or already be real thinkers. The fact is that we do not really know the answer to this question, hence the need for a new ethics and general philosophy of AI. Currently, nobody knows if thinking is a biological process or not, right? Unfortunately, I don't either. I have beliefs, but they don't matter, right? They're like stupid dogmas I carry around with me. Nobody actually knows if that stuff is doing some real thinking. This leads me to my final short thesis, third thesis. AI systems, whatever their true nature is, and we don't know, they strike us as if they were intelligent, but not everything that strikes you as if it was intelligent is intelligent, and not everything that doesn't strike you as intelligent is therefore not intelligent. When I arrived at my first university job, the dean of the faculty always told me that most of my colleagues won't stand the Turing test. So according to that, they can't be intelligent in the first place, but that's not always true. So AI systems effect positive, potentially radical social change. The aim of a new ethics of AI is to design AI systems whose goal is to effect positive and not merely radical social change, which ought to be measured in light of their active contribution to moral progress. And I will now conclude my thoughts with a recommendation on how to do that. So if we focus on the industrial conditions of production of AI systems, we soon see that they can only exist if we maintain our electricity grids, our extractive practices, our supply chains of semiconductors, our basic research infrastructures, and our habits of use and consumption of AI systems. ChatGPT or AlphaZero wouldn't exist if nobody cared to use them. That's the best way to fight Terminator, stop caring. OpenAI or DeepMind couldn't afford to build their models and improve them if they had no socioeconomic context within which they exist. In short, AI systems are not absolutes. They are parts of relations, socio-technologies. These relations are contexts of human societal use under market conditions of surplus value production. Now, a lot of recent research in economics and other behavioral sciences can be read as supporting the claim that humans are essentially pro-social mammals whose overall behavior is governed by ethical parameters. For this reason, humans are interested not in random social change for its own sake, unless you are a Maoist, but in positive social change. Positive social change is progress. Progress is moral if we discover hitherto partially hidden moral facts and implement them socially. The most effective way of social implementation is through the economy. Combining, therefore, techno-scientific, economic, and moral progress in and through AI research and systems promises to lead to a new scale of human progress. To conclude now my philosophical arguments with a positive, realistic proposal and an associated call to action. Imagine an AI system, I sometimes call it Alpha Buddha, or depending on your religious sensitivities, you can call it Alpha Moses, Alpha Krishna, Alpha Jesus, Alpha Muhammad, Alpha Mariah, the only woman I could find, or Alpha Elon for that matter. There's a problem with religion here, whose goal is to study human moral thinking and acting in light of the question of ethics outlined in my talk. Okay? Let's go for Alpha Buddha. It would lead to novel, morally relevant insight into who we are, who we want to be, and most importantly, who we ought to become. It would pave the way to faster and better, rationally controlled, scientifically guided moral progress. My call to action follows immediately from this. We ought to, nay, we must construct such a system with all efforts possible and necessary. The fact that we can, in principle, construct a socially positive, morally progressive thinking tool that enhances the moral standing of humanity entails that it is a moral fact that we ought to do this. Here, possibility entails necessity. In order to truly design such a system, we need massive cooperation of AI research, philosophy, and industry, just like we witnessed during the decades which led to the chess, Go, and recently language breakthroughs. Such is the spirit of a new ethics of AI. I conclude from these reflections, not just give me money, but also something different. We stand in front of one of the most important questions of humanity. Now that we can decide, do we want to improve the infrastructures of war, conflict, and parochial identities, getting better at chess, I love chess, by the way, Go, nationalism and destruction, or do we want to seriously invest in finding and then doing the morally good with the help of our most advanced techno-scientific and economic means ever? I leave this question with you. Thank you for your attention.